Welcome back to the Piece Script podcast. I am stoked for our conversation. If you are interested in private equity, if you want to get into boring businesses, this is the episode for you. Today we have Skyler Wanberg from Relics Holdings. Skyler, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we were getting into it. We were talking a bunch of business before the show actually started. How do you get into private equity?
I guess it's different for everyone. I kind of fell into it.
Okay.
I've started multiple companies myself, had some successful exits, and there's businesses that I wanted to get into for a long time that have proven test of time. Boring businesses, self-storage, car washes, car condos, that type of thing. So 2 years ago, I started looking for businesses that fit that bill, specifically on the franchise side with car washes, and went through due diligence with some of the franchises. Went to the final stage with one of them, and then a broker dealer friend introduced me to a group that already had some, and they were looking for a capital partner. And
Wow.
I've raised a lot of capital for people outside of my own businesses. So we came up with a deal where I own, a portion of their company, where we own a construction company. We buy the land, we build the car wash, and then eventually we'll do a roll up and sell. And over the last year, we've structured a deal where I'm the vice chair, VP of development, raise the capital, and we do our growth.
Damn.
So I look for operating businesses, I bring the capital, and then we expand.
For the people that don't understand, because I think there's a lot of people out there listening that are trying to build the next Facebook or like the next Instagram or whatever. Why boring businesses?
Well, two things. One, they're recession-proof in a way.
Yeah.
Real estate is, most millionaires are invested in some kind of real estate.
Absolutely.
And self-storage and car washes, they're just cash cows. And
Yeah.
they have depreciation, tax advantages. There's a lot of reasons why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it with what we do from a media side, like our number one goal when we continue to build and expand is to diversify our actual like cash. And the number one thing we look at is real estate or boring businesses. Like both, I got my start in boring business. I started in a cleaning company, and the company or the guy that I started with is still operating today. No matter up market, down market, he still gets jobs. People still need their stuff cleaned. Like
Yeah.
it is a very good business model. And Ryan was a part of a pressure washing company. So it's like we have seen these businesses, and the fun part about them as well is your ability to differentiate yourself is so from a marketing and brand side is so opportune, because most people just pop it up. They don't really think much about how it's being represented in the marketplace, but there's still massive opportunity to creatively market a car washing company, a leasing or storage company. Like there's still ways to do it. How do you see that? Like what's your guys' top of funnel plan? Like I know you obviously are an owner in a marketing agency as well.
The marketing side on the digital side is a little different with the car washes.
Yeah.
Self-storage is kind of easy. I mean, it's kind of you build it and they'll come when you put it in the right space and location. The car washes, you have to differentiate yourself on the services. So like one, we're the best at what we do. And a lot of people say that, but we actually have the best technology, and we reclaim 40% more water than any other car wash out there. We have a conveyor system that you can fit any vehicle on.
Yep.
And it sees your license plate, so you don't have to open your door, roll your window down. It kind of just notices you and you drive through. But as far as the digital aspect of it, we're doing the normal paid ads. We have billboards for some of our locations up in the Panhandle. We're also doing YouTube ads. It's kind of full service, but the main thing is we created something through our marketing agency where we can target specific people in a 5 and 10 mile radius and rank ourselves on Google Places within 90 days. So that's kind of one thing that we use. So if people are searching for car washes near us, we're number one on all of those searches.
That's dope.
So that's one of the big things that drives everyone to us.
Yeah.
And then once we get them there, then we prove ourselves and show them what we can do.
Yeah, I think it's funny because marketing, both old school guerrilla marketing or new school marketing, it's kind of the same framework. It's like are you being seen?
Right.
And like, how often are you being seen? And are you able to quickly be seen in a place that's convenient for them to then, like location? You just mentioned it with your car washing business. It's like location is everything. If you have a really crappy location, like one of a person I knew owned a studio like this, but it was an hour and a half outside of Cincinnati. Who's going to go? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to get the same foot traffic?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
It's really, truly about that. And no matter what, having a brand, like you said, this is the thing that I want everybody to like hear specifically. Good services win all. Because if you give good services, no matter if you're a cleaning company, no matter if you're a car wash, no matter whatever you do, if you offer the best services and you can stand on that, just getting one customer in the door then turns into 5 others because they tell their friends. And
100%.
everybody buys through, like, our business as a marketing company has been built off of referral only to this point. Like, we literally just transitioned into something a little bit more like marketing focus, building brand. You know, we still haven't dipped our toes into paid ads. We're looking to build an outbound sales team here like shortly, but it started, and to get to the point where we are today, all word of mouth, and it's a service-based business. What taught you the importance of quality of service?
Oh, the one thing, I mean, I've learned a lot of hard lessons. You know, being the first business owner in my family, I had to really differentiate myself from a young age. And there were times where I screwed up and I didn't do the things I said I was going to do when I was young.
Yeah.
And I learned very quickly that that's not going to get me anywhere. So I learned that go above and beyond what you're going to say. Most people, and you guys know, they overpromise and underdeliver, and you got to do the opposite.
Yeah.
And then word of mouth happens and it spreads like wildfire. Your network grows, and then everything kind of happens and falls in place.
That's the truth. That's the honest truth. It's like most business owners want to skip that step. They want to be really good at marketing and sales and then sell a shit thing. It's like, no, if you are really good at marketing and sales, go be a part of something where you are, like, I tell everybody this, it's like everybody's entrepreneurial journey looks great or looks different. And for me, for the first 2 years of building our company, as a salesperson, I spent all my time in fulfillment. Why? Because I would sell somebody and I'd say, I promise that I'm going to do this for you. And at one point with one of our clients, we knew that we had a gap in between what we believed we knew we could be and what we were currently. And we had to basically scale back to scale forward on a service delivery side. Because if we knew we could deliver on a promise, that promise that we specifically deliver for people is viral. You know what I mean? It's a viral promise. Hey, we're going to help build your brand to a level where you become a household name. You say that, it's a lot of work to get there.
Well, that's the part that everybody wants to skip, the hard work.
Exactly. Nobody wants to take a year and say, okay, we're not going to take on anybody new. We're going to focus on this. We're going to put our blinders on and we're just going to become the best at this.
Right. Everyone, you know, in the social media day and age, everyone sees instant gratification. You're going to be a millionaire in a week, 2 weeks, right? But you guys have probably heard the analogy. There's this professor in college. He teaches these 2 classes.
Yeah.
One of the classes, pottery classes, he teaches he tells his students, make one pot as perfect as you can, focus on that one pot for the whole semester, and you're graded on that.
Yeah.
Then he tells the other class, make as many pots as you possibly can, and that's what you'll be graded on, as many as you can at the end of the semester. The class who made the most pots at the end of the semester made not only the most, but also made the most perfect pots because it was blunt force trauma. They did it over and over and over again. And most people getting into business, they don't understand that. You got to do it over and over and over and over again until it becomes secondhand nature.
Yeah.
And it's just, most people just want to skip the hard stuff, and you can't. You're going to cut corners, but that's never going to happen. You're not going to get anywhere.
Go ahead and cut corners and you will build something about an inch wide. You could build it to high heights. I've worked, I used to be a part of a agency mastermind, and it used to make me crazy because I would sit in on some of these calls and they're like, dude, we just launched ads and we went 0 to 50K in like 3 weeks. Was that smoke and mirrors? Who knows? But I do know that these people were growing their companies exceptionally fast. Really, it looked like they skipped all the hard stuff.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Here's the best thing about business. Time will tell. So we had a meeting with the guy who ran the mastermind, and we told him our vision way back in the day. We knew what we wanted to do. It was, nobody wanted to do it. No, everybody looked at us like we were kind of like, that's not sexy. That's not quick. That's not fast. Why would you want to do that? Like, you could just do this and make all this money right now. And we sat with him and he goes, look, you're not going to get where you think you're going to get in a year, but I promise you in 5, you guys are going to be well ahead of the pack. And we're 3 years into that. And I can confidently say that it's trending in that direction. You know what I mean? So delayed gratification is huge. I'd be interested, what were some of the lessons that some of the harsh lessons you learned early on that you feel like it's important that most people know?
Ooh, not everyone's your friend. That was probably a big one. That's still today. That's a big one. You know, you guys have been burned, I'm sure. Everyone's been burned in business. It happens. I'm very careful now with who I talk to, what I say around certain people. People can be your best friends and they're not.
Yep.
It's actually the people outside of your circle sometimes that care more about you and invest in you more than the people that are close to you. It's weird. Some of the other lessons, there's so many I could give.
I want to double click on that one though, the trust thing, because I think we've built our business a little differently in the sense that me and Jace were best friends, and then we went into business together. So what we had was this underlying trust in each other before the business had even started. I'd shown up for him to where if he gave me, $1,000 and said, hey, I need you to watch this for a few days, I could be dead broke. And I would return that with $1,001. And that was proven over 4 years of friendship before we even got into the business aspect. But I think a lot of people get these dopamine rush conversations of, dude, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to scale to the moon. Like, we're going to be rich together. And then the work starts to kick in and the hard stuff starts to kick in, the tough conversations, just as much as me and Jace have loved each other and shown love for each other, we've also been at each other's throats, screaming at each other, like to the point where we're like sitting here and we're contemplating, is this right or whatever the momentary thing that we're in. But you have to have somebody that you can get off the phone with that, and then they call you the next morning because they don't feel right. That they want to work that out. They don't want to sit in that, whatever that feeling is. Because in a lot of ways, what I've learned is, a company is a vibe. Like, a company is a certain vibe. And people are going to hear that and be like, what the heck is he talking about? But really, truly, when people are all kind of jiving at the right frequency, and Derek Fay has been one of the people that has taught me this the most. He ran a gym business, but every Friday night he'd get a limo for all the employees and they would go out to Sky Bar and they would go party and they would have this great time. Does that have anything to do with bottom line? No. But what does that do? People are going in on Monday with people that they didn't know before, but now are best friends with because they had a great night out together. You know what I mean? It's building this family environment. We call it a sports team. It's like you show up, you do a job, and if you do it exceptionally well, you kind of feel like you're in a brotherhood. And if you don't, you get cut.
Definitely. I think over the last 10, 12 years, culture has been a huge thing in businesses. It used to be people would stay at companies for 20, 30 years. Now it's like Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever. They're leaving companies in 6 months because the culture's crap.
Yep.
Right?
It's so true.
It's a huge thing. And the other thing, when it comes to partnership, it's like a marriage. And like, I don't know how you guys are together, but I know I have certain strengths and I have certain weaknesses. So when I partner with somebody, I want their strengths to be my weaknesses and vice versa. And if it's not that way, I've learned the hard way. We can't have the same strengths because we're going to fail because we're leaving a void over here where both of our weaknesses are.
100%.
And that's a hard lesson I've learned.
Yeah. It's the thing about Jason and I is he is so many things that I'm not, like, and he has so much experience that I didn't have before. And I like the thing that, for people specifically listening, I think it was Hormozy that said this. When you're doing a partnership, you have time, money, and knowledge. That's the 3 leverage points in a business partnership that you have. And it's oversimplified, but either your partner that you work with has money that you don't, they have time that you don't, or they have knowledge that you don't. It just so happened that me and Jace had 2 different sets of knowledges that when we brought them together, they were extremely powerful. I had way more time because I wasn't working a full-time job, and he had money because he was working a full-time job. So it was like this perfect mix of like the right sauce.
Yeah.
And we still have, I'm really good at sales. He's really good at sales. You know what I mean? We still have things that we overlap on, but that fundamental piece that got us started was really everything that made sense right then and what built the foundation for the company. When you look at partnerships going forward, you just said that you started working with your actual life partner.
Yeah, we just started a business together. Yeah.
There's a stigma around that. There's a huge stigma around that. What made you guys make that decision, and also what projects are you guys working on?
So she's been a developer, real estate developer her whole career, the last 20 years. And for me, I've raised a lot of capital for outside companies for quite a while. And she's wanted to get into luxury real estate for a while. And I've always wanted to get into the real estate market. That's just not been one of my companies over the past, decade. So we were like, why don't we combine forces and make this happen? She wants that to be her dream company. And I'm like, this sounds amazing to me.
Yeah.
So we made it happen. And now, so we invest into new construction, luxury real estate, specifically condos in Naples, Florida.
Very cool.
And eventually we'll expand probably into other markets, maybe Miami, Brickell, wherever. And we'll start a fund. But right now we're under contract on 2 units right now.
Yeah. You guys are doing 1 unit. Are you allowed to talk about that? What you guys are currently working on with the events?
We can't talk about specifics because we have an NDA with them.
Yeah.
But I can give you general.
Yeah, I just heard it. We talked about it a little bit, and not all the details, obviously, but it's really exciting. And I think the thing that I am wondering is, what is it like to raise capital? We've been a cash only business pretty much. Like, we're just cash flow business. So the startup capital for us was like 13 grand or something like that, which is, listen, bootstrap. I didn't have it back in the day, but it was a bootstrap business. On your end, you're making high leverage, high cash, like you're doing big deals like that. How do you get investors? How do you get, how can you start in that world?
Specifically real estate?
Real estate, business buying, like all that. Asset acquisition, basically.
It depends. I mean, it's different in every situation. So like my first 4 companies, I bootstrapped everything. And I did pretty well. My insurance business, I was selling life insurance and I knew nothing. And I turned out to be good at sales. So I could go out and make $10,000 a week and crush it if I wanted to, and start hiring people. And then I could take that money and invest it into different projects and different companies. I didn't do that because I was young, dumb, and I didn't know what I was doing, but that's what I should have done.
Yeah.
And not until after I had my 4th acquisition, then I started investing into outside companies. I had a medical device company I sold in 2018 to private equity. And then I started investing into medical billing, software, SaaS company for hospitals and surgery centers. And my money was working for me, but it took time to actually build enough to where I could invest and own, majority stake in one of them and a large minority stake in another.
Yeah.
And then for the real estate side, that's a little different. For our car washes, the first 3 car washes we had, our main principal, he self-funded all of them. So, he's got $15 million into those properties. And now, he doesn't want to start shelling out more and more. So originally he was doing a personal guarantee. Now I'm structuring everything through banks. So it's not through a personal guarantee. It's going to be through the future value of our land, the future value of our buildings.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So but it's going to be a long time structure. It's probably going to be a 6-month time frame with a $50 million revolver. So it's very different than bootstrap or having a personal guarantee or using your own money. And I'll be honest, I've never done anything like this. So I'm learning as I go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like what we think about with our company is we had a meeting with a guy recently. I think it's always interesting because you never think your company is scalable in the early days. Like you really don't. Like you really, I say that most entrepreneurs overemphasize how important they are. Like they think they're way more important than they actually like truly are to the company. Like we were having this conversation recently because I'd made wrong hires before and I'd just gone through my next hiring cycle and I feel like I hit on like a couple really good ones. And it was the first time that I got to feel this sense of like, wow, the sum of these people is exactly what I used to do for you know what I mean? Like I have now been able to multiply myself and it was the coolest feeling I've ever had. But at a certain point, I was living in this mud of like, this thing's never going to scale. It needs me. It needs all my attention. It needs every, waking hour that I have, which it still does, but it's in terms of where's that time going. And now I get to look into things like you're talking about, where it's like, there is a world where you can scale massively, especially with what we do with studios and like our real estate plays that we want to make. It's like, there's ways to do it. It's just how creative you are in setting up your deals. What taught you deal creativity and like really like working through deal structure and how to do it and why to do it and things like that?
It's just been talking with different business owners and investment bankers, banks. I mean, founders. There's so many different deal structures and the way they do things. So it's like I've just learned and from being around people, having those different conversations. And then it's just what you like to do the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's with like I always had a fear of debt. Like I'm still very afraid of debt in the sense of like, I don't know. Personal debt for me is like I drive a really shitty car for the same exact reason. It's paid out. You know what I mean? Like
my girlfriend yells at me. She's like, when we met, I was driving a 2016 Ford Fusion. She's like, why do you drive this piece of shit? I'm like, I don't need a nice car right now.
Paid off.
I've had all the nice cars when I was young and dumb.
Yeah.
Now I'm smart and I have money. I don't need the nice car.
It's the truth though. But like from a business perspective, I think debt is extremely useful. It allows you to do a lot of things.
It's a necessity for some businesses.
Yeah. What businesses do you believe it's a necessity for?
So like specifically the car washes,
Mm-hmm.
we have to have debt. Otherwise, we're shelling out between $7 and $9 million in cash per location with land. Like that's not sustainable because our carry until we're actually profitable is about a year and a half. I mean, we'll go broke by the time that happens.
Yeah.
So we need debt on the back end.
Yeah. How do you mitigate risk like that's what I always think about. It's like making a big real estate play. A part of it is just like dealers luck. Are you making the right choices? But how do you mitigate risk when you make deals like that?
We're a franchisee of the car washes. So they've been around for 50 years, never had a failed location. The financials are solid. And the big thing for me was just doing my due diligence on the actual guy who started our holding company for those car washes, because he's operating everything and I'm bringing the capital and having him trust my relationships and the money with those guys. So that's been the big thing for me.
Yeah.
People.
It's with that specifically, I have learned a lot about those holding companies that invest like that. Like that's actually super interesting because there's a couple of guys that own the local Twin Peaks. I think they own the Twin Peaks right by the airport, which is the biggest Twin Peaks location nationally, which is like,
really,
who would have thought that? Yeah, it is.
I didn't know that.
It is the top selling location in the nation for Twin Peaks, which whoever made that investment, like kudos on you. But they just recently went into Doral, Naples. They're opening one in Cape Coral, but they had like 4 stores and now they're doing like 3 stores. And I'm pretty sure they're doing it all with their own capital right now.
Interesting.
And, their carry, they're sitting there
I'm
like
sure
a little tight right now.
I carried interest. Yeah.
I think they're a little tight right now. Not like actually tight. I think they're just like, we just shelled out how many millions of dollars to get all this stuff done. But there's a double-edged, there's 2 sides of the coin there where it's like, do you want to, but how does the deal structure work on like a deal like that? So you have debt services that you have to pay every single month. for the real estate itself, but based on the financials of the company, you're expecting the profit of the company to cover debt services, hard costs for the business, and still produce a profit on top of that?
Yeah. So each location is a little different depending on location. So like some of our land, like our newest property was $2.8 million. One of our other properties was 1.2. So there's a big difference, but we want to buy the best location.
Yep.
So the way we're structuring everything is we usually do a construction loan that changes into a conventional loan. And then we have to have it broken down where we have to have X amount of memberships monthly. So our MRR is increasing. And then we also have to have subscriptions from some of the other things that we offer, along with just individual people coming through the car washes each and every day. And so once we have, X amount of members, X amount of people coming through, then our break even is, we say year one, end of year one, beginning quarter one of year two. And then we're covered and we'll start going into the black.
Off to the races, basically.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. There's, when you look at that type of deal structure, is that why you felt it important to own the marketing company so that you could cover your bases in that way?
No, so I started the marketing company before the car washes, actually.
Okay.
So before the car washes, before the self-storage, before the luxury condos, I was doing deal flow. I mean, specifically, I was working on 18 deals I was raising capital for other people. And for me, the marketing company was just a way to bring our business out to other businesses, family offices, private equity groups, venture capitalists, high net worth, ultra high net worth people. And I built a really quick relationship with about 600 different families and private equity groups.
That's sick.
Yeah. So that's why I started it initially. And then once I was like, why am I raising capital for everybody else? And I'm not raising capital for my own things. I'm making pennies compared to what I should be making. And that's when I said, let's get into self-storage. Let's get into car washes and the luxury condos. And then I was like, well, we still have to have a marketing company to actually market what we do with all these other things. So let's just tie it into all of those.
That makes a ton of sense. For somebody that's trying to build relationships with private family offices and things like that, what are some of your recommendations? How do you get in front of these people? How do you build relationships with them? Because I think people think that like getting loans is like, they see it as this very traditional thing, which it is. There's definitely a traditional aspect to it where you have to show financials. There's a lot, but there is a lot of, like we talked about before, vibe. Because at the end of the day, they're giving an individual the money to invest. They're not giving it to an innate object. They're giving it to a person to then distribute that cash flow. How did you go about building those relationships?
So initially it was, for my old businesses, I showed proof of concept of what I did. So my success spoke for itself, which opened me up to a network of other people that I didn't have access to. And then those people introduced me to other people who wanted me to raise capital for them or make introductions. And for me, like, I'm not great at sales. Everyone's like, you're so good at sales. I'm terrible at sales. I hate sales. It's the worst part of my day.
Yeah.
I am a connector of people.
Yeah.
So like I have meetings all day, every day. And usually I'm connecting each meeting with 2 to 3 people every single day. And that expands my network so much.
Massively.
Like yesterday, I connected 3 guys. They already have a deal in place. One guy raised money from another guy that I introduced. And then we're doing like a Ferrari rally with another group because they got along so well. So now one of them wants to go and pay for cars for us to go and drive around. So I'm like, it's just a connection thing.
Yeah.
And like with family offices and private equity, it's showing, it's saying what you're going to do and doing it, doing what you're going to say. That's the biggest thing. And it's also very different. Everybody likes something different. So like if you have a business plan and you're trying to raise capital, one family office is going to want to see certain things on that business plan than this family office over here. And this investment banker is going to want to see something different than this investment banker. And this private equity company, some people like the MRR, the IRR. It's all different. You just have to tailor it specifically to each family office, each investor. I mean, one business plan, it's like a resume for people who have jobs. You have to tailor that resume specifically to that job, right? It's the same thing with the business plan, same thing with your CIM. You have to tailor it specifically to who you're talking to.
Same thing with people's cold outreach, which people also don't.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like if you're a marketing agency and you want more clients and you want to get people to give you money, personalize, craft pitch for, like it's the work is done in the details in this situation. It's not blanket marketing to a bunch of people with the same shit. It's like really if people feel like they're being tailored to, they're being worked for. And then my favorite thing that you said is do what you say, or say what you're going to do and then do it. Like that is one of our core foundations of our company, one of our value systems. Everybody that comes in the door, because we're a service-based business, because we work with people all day, it's like when we say we're going to do something, we do it. That is an innate quality in us. Now, if it's me and I'm like, hey, I'll be here at 9 o'clock, I might be late, whatever. I'm more so talking about when it matters, make sure it matters and make sure that you really show up for people in the way that you say you're going to, because at the end of the day, results matter. And if you're going to say, I'm going to get you one thing, and I've done this, like hand in the sky, like I've been the person that is overpromised and underdelivered. I think everybody has
We've all
gone
been
through
there
that.
one time or another.
Exactly. To then know I never want to be in this situation again, because I don't like the feeling of not being able to deliver on what I need to deliver.
Letting people down is like the worst feeling.
It'll put me. We've had situations in the past where I've done something and I'm like in the couch for like 3 weeks afterwards, because I'm just like, and it's so minute. It's so minute too. It's like you can make one thing, and I made the joke about like being on time, but like I don't believe that. Like I think if you're showing up for somebody and somebody's there to show up for you, you better be on time. But I think because that's the detail, that if you show up 5 minutes late,
you're wasting somebody else's time.
And most people that we know and the people that we work with, you work with, they don't give a shit about the money. Don't waste their time, or they're going to really, really never trust you, never want to work with you, never talk good about you. And you need a couple of those to completely trash your reputation.
100%. Because time is your most valuable asset. It's not the money.
Yeah, exactly. What has it been like for you to build a reputation that you built? Like, how have you gone about doing that?
It goes back to what we just said, saying what you're going to do and doing it.
Yeah.
And then down here, it's just the biggest thing for me. So I've only been down here for about 3 years, and I've built a pretty good network, solid people. It's just connecting people. That's been a big driver for me. And it's not just random connections. It's very specific. So like if somebody says, they're putting this deal together and, we have an AI company and we're looking for someone to bring us into the gov space or the commercial space or whatever it is. And I have somebody that's doing something in that space, I'm going to connect those guys. And you never know where it leads to. Maybe it doesn't lead to anything, but they connect and that guy might know somebody that they need to meet. That's been the biggest driver for me for building a network of people. And yeah,
that's what takes off. I've met people like Eric Hinman and different people that I've met in my network, and I'm like, they are master connectors. Like there was one time, Eric Hinman is the best in the fitness, health, and wellness space, the best networker I've ever met, to where he introduced me to all these different people. And one day I'm in a room like 6 months later, 7 months later, and I look around and I'm like, how do you know him? Through Eric. How do you know him? Through Eric. There's 7 people there and everybody knows each other through one source. That's the best networkers. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's the people that, and it's not bullshit either. It's not like, hey, Johnny, you have a business? Meet Jim, he has a business. It's like, no, that's not going to do anything. But again, if you know how to read people's vibes, if you know how to read people's like the micro details of this person would get along with this person because of this.
Right.
Now you're working with magic. And then you're the one that will always be remembered as, oh, thanks to so-and-so 5 years down the road.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
How do you, if you're just starting out, if you're literally just starting out, does that start with like, okay, how do you even meet people?
Oh, it's easy. I mean, digital age right now, it's super simple. Cold DM people on Instagram. The biggest thing for me is LinkedIn. I DM at least 20 people every single day on LinkedIn.
Damn.
And I reach out and I go have coffee, and usually we have some similar connections, make introductions, get to know one another, build a relationship, and then start making introductions from the people I actually know once I trust that person.
Wow.
That's been the biggest driver.
LinkedIn strategy.
LinkedIn for sure.
What's your cold opener? Or is it personalized for everybody?
It's personalized. Yes and no. It's personalized, but not so much. It's really casual. It's like, hey, I'm trying to get to know some more people in Naples. Would love to connect and have coffee if you're open to it. Simple.
And that's how you would meet new people and that's how you
I still do that to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I always say that like cold outreach is the best. Like,
that's how I started my first company. That's how I will continue to build companies and network. And
because there's like this incognito part of it too.
Most people don't do it. It's like, that's the hard thing. It's like, I'm glad that Instagram and social media wasn't big when I was younger, when I got into business.
Yeah.
So I started my first company in 2010.
Okay.
And so it was just kind of taking off.
Before.
Right. So like for insurance, I had to make 250, 300 cold calls on a phone every day. Most people nowadays don't even know what that looks like. And they won't do it.
Yeah. I'd worked at the cleaning company, and then I went and worked at a horse feed. I was a partner in a horse feed company, which is totally wacky. But same thing. I was in marketing and I was sales, and I went in and I had to build my own list. How old was I? Like 20? True Feeds? I was 20 years old built a 200 to 300 person list of brokers because we were trying to sell flaxseed.
Okay.
So we had a manufacturer in Wyoming that made a bunch of flaxseed. And so we were distributing the flaxseed to a bunch of different people. Long story short, I built a list of 200 brokers, and then I just 200 times.
Yeah.
And at this point, I was selling $150 things with the cleaning company. You know what I mean? I didn't know what it was like for somebody to be like, I want a 6-figure PO of flaxseed. And now you have to manage all the logistics behind it and all that stuff, which is whatever. But I can literally remember it like it was yesterday. Did all these dials. Just getting somebody to respond to my email was like the biggest dopamine spike in the world. And then finally I got a broker that wanted to buy flaxseed for I think he wanted to do 2 orders. One was 21,000 and the next one was like 26,000. And I was like, holy, it was the coolest moment of my life. Yeah. But that opened me up to what was truly possible. And that's where I think most people, it's like, you want to start your company, start there, see what happens. You're going to, number one, appreciate that customer way more than, I think some people feel when they go through paid ads. People get this fatigue of humans.
Sure.
And they think that humans just grow on trees and like relationships just grow on trees. No.
Oh, no.
No.
I'm actually really bad at that side. So I'd say it sounds like I'm really good at networking and maintaining communication. It's actually one of my weak points and I need to get better at. My girlfriend and business partner, she is on her phone 24/7 to a point where it drives me nuts. But it's for a good reason. She reaches out to everyone in her network. She has so many good people in her life because she constantly talks to them and reaches out and says, hey, how are you doing? I know you're going through this. I know you're going through this. Did everything go smoothly? To everyone.
Yep.
And I need to get better at that. But I mean, that's a huge thing for building a network and maintaining relationships and having people that always have your back. Like I've never seen so many people in someone's life have someone's back
and rally for them.
Just when you say, hey, I need help, 100 people will show up. It's crazy. I don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like a just deep relationship with a lot of close people. And
I'm the same way. I'm in your boat where it's like I have my circle, my inner circle is like we are like our bonds are tight, like unbreakable bonds in a sense. The thing that one of my buddies, Bobby Ryan, is super good at this. Even with relationships, he built a CRM where he has their phone number, their email, their interests, their all this type of stuff. And if he's bored during a day, he'll write personal letters to these people and then send it out to them directly.
Yep.
And I'm like,
Smart.
that's the shit that, like, from my perspective, I can look at that and go, I need to be there. There's some days where I'll get home and I'll have 30 text messages and I'm like, I'm so worn out right now.
I get it.
Like, I'm just like, I know I got to respond to all these, and then you get into it, but it's the hard work at the end of the day. How can you maintain relationships? But I also want to say, I think there's a line between, you know, obviously for what your girlfriend does, it's probably really, really important. But I think some people can get over networked, and I'm like, you're not doing any actual work. You're just talking to people all day. You know what I mean?
That's different. Yeah.
Fine line between the two. But no, it's when you're looking at what you're building for the future, what are you kind of looking to improve on, and who do you think you need to become to self-actualize, to be the person that you want to be?
Skylar. That's who I need to become. A better version of myself.
Yeah.
I think you guys know Ed Milet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said, you know, when he dies and he meets God in heaven or whatever at the gates, God's going to show him two people, the guy who you could become and the guy who you are. And he doesn't want there to be such a big deficit of who he could become and who he was.
Yeah.
So I want to become that person that God thinks I can become.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm striving for. And to go back to what you said a little bit before, you said about writing letters to differentiate yourself. My second business, we had 47 pharmacies across the US, and we had to build relationships to sell, you know, topical pain creams to dentists, physicians. So I had to go in, cold call, get to know the managers of the office, get through the front door. And everyone who said no, I would write them a letter. I would bring them bags of candy, do little things so they remembered me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a CRM, but I have a little black book, and I still do. And it would say, you know, Angela, black hair, blue eyes, very nice, you know, like real stupid. Back then, you know, I'm 21, going out and selling and writing what I knew just so I could remember, because I'm terrible at remembering names.
Same.
So any detail that I could see, I would write it down. So when I come in the next time, I'm gonna remember her, and hopefully she remembers me, because I'm going above and beyond and doing something a little different than anybody else who's just coming in there and trying to get to see a doctor, not paying attention to the office manager, the front desk. You know, you got to build those relationships to get access to the actual relationships that you want, because they take care of those people just as much as you want to take care of the people that you want to do business with.
There's this fallacy where it's like, oh, I need to save up all my energy for the important people. And I think, like I say with anything, there is no such thing as important people and not important people, because you have no idea. You have no idea, and you never will.
Right.
You will only find out when you do treat that person with the right respect, the right dignity. Anybody, I don't care who it is, because you never. And it's so cliche. Yeah, so cliche, and I like, my skin crawls even just saying it. But it's like, you never know who somebody could be. You never know who somebody could know. You never know whose janitor saved the rich guy's dog from running out in the middle of the street, and now they have this undying loyalty and love for them, so that if he says anything that he said, his word is bond, and then all of a sudden you're put in a room because you were nice to that guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's how this happens. And
100%.
But that's hard.
I got a story for that too.
Let me hear it.
So when I moved down here almost 3 years ago, it was right before Cars on Fifth down in Naples.
Badass event.
Yeah. So I moved down a week before, and so this one guy, he had 5 cars in the car show, all classics. And I started talking to him. He had holy jeans, a ripped up shirt. You know, you wouldn't think anything about him. And I'm a huge car guy. So I'm talking about his motors, and he had his interiors redone. And one of the cars was a resto mod and restored. And so we just were shooting the shit, talking. And so he invited me to another car show the next day. I had no idea who this guy was. I didn't even know his name. I'm talking to him. I showed up at the next car show. The next day, a buddy of mine who I just met was like, "Do you know who this guy is?" And I'm like, "It's a car guy. I mean, I don't know his name." He's like, "That's Ken Griffin."
That's
like,
insane.
What? I had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's also the power of Naples.
100%. I mean, there's so many people here in Naples, but it's like, you just never know. People, like when people see a celebrity or a business owner, people get wide-eyed and they change who they are. Everyone, like, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much success you have. The one thing that I've learned is everyone is so similar. Just be a normal human. Like everyone puts someone on a pedestal and I don't understand it. I get it because that's how I was when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because I grew up super poor. So seeing someone that had money, I'm like, I want this. I want to be like you. Teach me, you know, whatever it was. Now it's different. Just a different view on life.
It's funny because I can specifically remember points in my life where I put people on that pedestal. And then I would also at the same time, like one of the things that I've been really good on now is I'll go to a front desk person, server, anything. If you really want to see somebody light up, somebody that serves people all day, ask them their name. And then repeat it back to them. And then go, and then when they come back with your check, say thank you, insert their name. Watch how people will flip on a dime. Like people are just people at the end of the day. And I remember what it was like to be serving people. And the guy with the I used to serve back at Sorello's with Ryan. And I remember the rich guy who'd sit there and he'd give you, he'd give you an extra $20 and he'd be like, here you go, Jamie. And I'm like, I'm flying high for the rest of the day because so-and-so knew my name. You know what I mean? And I think it's one of those things where it's simple, but it's mundane. It's everyday, no matter rain, sunshine, sleet, whatever it is, show up and be that person and you will attract everything that you want in your life. It's like The Secret. Like people think that's all fugazi, like the
Nah.
Oh, it's so legit.
Yeah,
but you have to be that person.
100%. Yeah, and there's a study too. I'm not from the restaurant industry, but there's a study like if the servers get to know everyone's name at the table and they say their names each time they come over to the table, they get a 30% higher tip than the people who don't remember their names or don't ask their names. So it's both ways. Get to know the server's name, but the server has to know your name too. It's about service.
And think about cold outreach. Are you obsessed with the details? Do you understand what this person, like Mike, our head of business development, is great at that. Like he worked in logistics. You know how hard it is to differentiate yourself in logistics? You probably get it with insurance. It's super hard. Like you're
how many insurance agents are there? 1 million. It's just like logistics. I mean, I know.
But personalization, extra care, extra time, and then not to mention then differentiate yourself with your service, which we started the episode talking about. Like be the best at your thing and then have all those intangibles.
There's even one step further than that too. The one thing I learned is not everyone's going to want to do business with you and you're not going to want to do business with everyone else. So it just needs to be a natural conversation where you're saying, hey, we might not be a good fit for you and you might not be a good fit for us, but this is what we can do for you. And if not, then that's all right. Stay with your guy or go to somebody else. We'll be here.
Yep.
We'll keep doing what we know how to do best. And when you're ready, come.
Yeah. It's people will write people off just because they gave them the, I'm not really interested right now. It's like, sometimes what people say and what they actually feel is different. And you have to be able to read in between the lines.
Oh, definitely.
Are they saying no because they don't know you? Probably. You know what I mean? And it's just those reps of doing it every single day. But I mean, dude, I really, really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. If you want people out there to support you, what are you looking for deal flow wise? Like we have a ton of people listening that, somebody could text tomorrow and be like, hey, I have this deal for you. What is it that you're looking for?
I'm not looking for deals right now. So since we have the deals already in place, the big thing I'm looking for is capital. Okay. So capital for our car washes, capital for our condos that we're invested in. And then we also closed on a deal downtown on 5th, where we're going to have luxury, retail, high-end furniture. It'll double as an event space, a block from the beach. So eventually we'll look for people to come in and rent the space out as well.
Grit Media will be one of those. We're really, 2025 is going to be a huge event year for us. So we'll definitely have to chat about that.
Yeah,
off camera.
And I appreciate you having me on the podcast, Jamie. This was awesome.
Dude, listen, If anybody didn't know, this is Skyler's first podcast. He freaking ripped it.
This was awesome.
Ripped it. Like that's a rarity. But thank you, man, for coming on. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment something you enjoyed from this episode. I love talking about this type of stuff. I know for some people it can get a little, what are they talking about? Everything like that. But if you guys want to know how to make real money, this episode will do that for you. So appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.